The players are opening that irreparable damage. They want $1 billion put into a fund that the players can use right now by the NFL owners. That's what they're asking for today. They want the business open now, and they're saying that the NFL is in violation by not opening after they told them basically to open. The NFL is saying, wait a second, you can't reasonably ask us to open until, this is what they were arguing before the judge, we can't ask us to open, and then we might win the case tonight. You might give us what we want, and then we have to close again. We can't unscramble the egg, okay, is their argument. Think about their argument, though. If I'm the judge, I would say to them, wait a second. Your argument to me is that if you open today or open right now, and then you get a ruling in your regard, in your way, that you can't re-scramble the egg and close again. You can't, as you said, unscramble the egg. But tomorrow, you're open for business for 3 days. So if I'm DeMaurice Smith today, I say, Judge, how can they tell you they are going to have to, quote-unquote, unscramble the egg when they are open for business across America the next 3 days for the draft? We're closed, but we're open. We're arguing tonight we're closed and we should remain closed, but we're open tomorrow for business for 3 days. How utterly ridiculous. If I'm the judge, I say, hey, idiots, how are you open for business tomorrow, but you're arguing you should be closed for business tonight? Then how do you have a draft? You shouldn't have a draft. You're either open or you're closed. How are you open but not open? How are you open for the draft? How are you open for business tomorrow? Every NFL office will be in motion tomorrow night. They will be communicating. They will be in their offices. They will be open for business. They will be presenting their draft to America. They are open for business. How can they argue they're closed? If I'm a judge, the NFL can't win this tonight. There's no way. How are they not open for business? They're having a draft tomorrow. If you're closed, you're closed. That means you're not doing business. How are you partially open? I don't see any way that anyone should ever give a ruling to the NFL in this regard. How are they not open? If they're having a draft tomorrow, they're open. Oh, that doesn't count. It's a separate business. What do you mean separate business? If you're open for business, you're open. So the NFL's argument today is we can't open. Here's what I would say as the judge. Are you open tomorrow? Yes. Oh, you just said you can't open. Well, that's different. We're not opening for existing players. We're opening to have You're either open or you're closed. You're a business. This is such a, in my mind, such a specious argument that the NFL is making that it is ridiculous. I'd laugh them out of court if I were them. If I'm DeMaurice Smith, how do you lose this? How does the NFL argue they are closed when they have a draft for 3 days? If they were shutting down their draft, you'd say, all right, you're closed. You're shutting down your draft. They're opening for 3 days. Every NFL business is open tomorrow. Well, we're open for that part of the business. We don't want to be open for this part of You're either open or you're closed. You can't be half open. Okay? You're not half open. There should be no legal term half open. They're opening tomorrow, so they're open. They unscrambled the egg themselves. They're done. See, I think the draft, if I'm DeMaurice Smith, I use the fact that the draft's tomorrow to win my case. Judge, they're open tomorrow anyway. So why would you have them open today? Tell them they have to open. They're open anyway. That doesn't make any sense. So legally, if I'm the judge, I'm sitting there saying, well, NFL, if you're closed, that means you're closed tomorrow. Oh, no, we're open for the draft. No. You're either open or you're closed. You're not partially open. You don't get to separate and differentiate what days and for whom you're open. You're either open or you're closed. So if the NFL wants to conduct the draft tomorrow, in my mind, they're open. So that should be the end of that nonsense. And to me, once the NFL has gone that and opened for the draft, then they have opened their business. They reopened their own business. If I'm DeMaurice Smith, that's what I argue. They're opening their business tomorrow anyway. So they can't close it to our players. They're open. I don't see how they win that. With the draft in the way, unless they cancel the draft, I don't see how the NFL could possibly win this. It doesn't make any legal sense to me. Now, like I said, sometimes these arguments don't make any sense. But to me, it doesn't make any sense. I even brought that up to Boyce yesterday, and he even laughed and said, yeah, I got to admit, it's weird. Well, heck, if you were arguing it the other way, you'd be arguing that it's not weird, it's just wrong. You're either open or you're closed. You can't argue that. Their argument was, their quote was, once we open, Judge, we can't close again. We can't unscramble the egg. Well, who's unscrambling the egg tomorrow? So to me, maybe I wouldn't even allow them to close while the appeal's heard. I wouldn't let them. Keep them open. Rule that they have to stay open. If they win the appeal, then you can shut down. That's 6 weeks later. They never shut down. And then they go back to business. Case closed. If they want to have their draft, they have to end the lockout if they want to have their draft. That's the bottom line. And that should have been the ruling all along.